of movement. If you have evidence of movement, then you can prove jurisdiction. Who is the real party of interest?
So Wachovia loans have very little noticeable movement. Is that my understanding?
I don't know if that's across the board. It just happens to be my case.
World Savings.
World Savings, Wachovia, Wells. And it could be that some of them are securitized. It just happens that mine is a portfolio loan.
Okay, my understanding is the Attorney General in 9 or 10 different states, including Washington State, has filed a lawsuit against Wachovia and Wells Fargo, and they won. And the judgment is saying that those banks have to take the pick-up payment and option arm loans, and they have to modify them. The Hope people don't even know this. Well, they do now. But they're hopeless, too. And Dave Dewey has told my girlfriend that he will personally take on her case and make sure that they modify her loan.
Nice.
Because the Hope people are hopeless.
Jokes.
That's very
So,
sad.
anybody who has a loan as such needs to call the Attorney General's office and get some satisfaction.
Thank you. Right on, brother. Keep fighting.
Chuck,
Right behind
I'm
you.
going to see you later. We're heading.
Thank you, Brian. Keep
I'll see
fighting.
you again.
Thank you.
Back to the Deed of Trust Act, it also clearly specifies that a beneficiary must be the holder of the indebtedness of the obligation. So if MERS is named as a beneficiary, MERS has come up publicly and repeatedly and legally stated they've never held a beneficial interest in any note. Under Washington State Deed of Trust Act, MERS cannot be, by definition,
They
cannot
do it
be a
every single
beneficiary.
day.
I know they do. I know they do. And they do. You're right, they're stealing the house. I used to have 5 houses. I lost one last month and I got one going next week. So let's see if we can stop it.
Oleg's going to take some questions now from the internet. Gotta love the internet.
Okay. Question on the control of the currency. Was the my state controller or it's national?
I don't know what the answer to that. I believe it's a state-by-state thing, but I could be wrong.
As far as I know, control of the currency only controls the national banks. So regardless of where you live, if your bank is national, it's under their jurisdiction. If it's local state bank, then you go to a state agency.
Or the Office of Thrift. Office of Thrift is
Can you keep the conversations down, please? Thank you.
so the Office of Thrift is also another regulatory agency that you can use.
So it's Office of the Thrift?
Office of Thrift, they're actually
Office of Thrift.
Office of Thrift. They basically charter the banks. What they're doing is that they charter for the banks.
Okay, so Google that, Office of Thrift, Thrift.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
Also, there is it might be called state agency for financial institution, something like that. Another question: received letter from Bank of America indicating that they will be in Seattle and invited me to come to discuss some type of modification. Invite good from now until end of the month. Suggestion.
I really can't comment on that. I mean, if you are in a loan mod conversation, as I understand it, they cannot foreclose on you. So if nothing else, it's worth talking to. And if you show in good faith that you are in loan mod and they still foreclose on you, then you can say, Your Honor, look, I tried in good faith and they still stole my house. But it's up to you. Excuse me. The only thing I want to caution you is if you go through the loan mod, then you agree to the new terms and the new contract is perfected.
Another question. Loan was with Countrywide. Now it's Bank of America sending request for payment. Who does the first letter to go? I sent to Bank of America, no response. Sent second letter, still no response. Where do I go from here?
Then you go through and you declare them that they're not a real party of interest because they admit to be not a real party of interest through acquiescence. That's what I did anyway. And then what you do is you then go through your securitization and your forensic audit and you gather evidence of movement, gather evidence of securitization, and then you bring suits against your lender. That's what I did with mine, or some of it anyway, as I learned more. Any more? Come on, guys, on the internet. Come on, send some more. Okay, do we have any more questions? Otherwise, we're going to break for lunch.
One more question.
Okay, guys, at the afternoon session, we will have Mayor Solomon live on video stream with us, and it's gonna be the best part, I think, of the day. So make sure
First is the
you're
best
here.
part, never mind.
And make sure you're here by what is it? 1.
Yeah, let's go for one. Yeah.
And we have some snacks for you here. But if you will leave, make sure you're here by 1 p.m. Because we're gonna start at 1.
So we have some more questions here.
Oh, I know you can't recommend in good conscience that somebody stop making mortgage payments, but if they're not going to be able to, then
If you can't, you can't. I
as
mean,
long as you start the administrative process, you've got something going.
you still, typically you should have at least 6 months of room if you stop making payments now.
Don't ignore letters, always respond.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
See, I have, like I was saying before, I want to go do a bankruptcy. I have unsecured debt that I need to bankrupt on, and I also need to capture these houses. But it's to my understanding that a 7 discharges unsecured debt, but a 13 is a restructure.
Correct.
So how would I do that?
Probably, I refer you to a bankruptcy attorney to get the specific ruling on that. In my experience, the trustee says at least pay the non-secured creditors 25% of the face value, is what he told me.
Right.
And there's guidelines that your attorney could do that. I don't know how to do it. All right, any more questions?
Yeah, I got these letters. I started my process with my insurance company to be named as beneficiary, and they gave me these as proof of Washington Mutual being the note holder. Now, would those be considered letters of movement?
So you said your insurance company. I don't understand. Oh,
My homeowner's insurance policy.
homeowners insurance. That actually, so it says Washington Mutual is the beneficiary interest, but then you have Wells Fargo. I don't understand. Let's just talk about that privately. All right, let's have a break and meet back at 1 o'clock sharp. Thank you. So, gentleman here made a comment about if it's an investment property and you have renters, do they have to honor the rental agreement? And can't you just place a rental tenant in right now so you can extend to keep your house longer? So it's called the Obama Housing Tenant Protection Act, or something like that. It was enacted in 2009, and the act is very specific. And again, I'm just recalling from memory what the specifics of the act is. It has to be, at least the contract has to be 90 days before the notice of default is filed. So you can't just create a contract between a tenant and somebody and put them in your house and keep them there just because they delayed that.
Well, in that regard though, if you were to do a contract and then 30 days later, you should get a notice of default. I mean, it's not the fault of the tenants necessarily, right?
That's what the law said. And please redo your own research.
Right.
But it's 90 days before the notice of default, before they can honor that. But if you have that in place, they have to honor the rental agreement for the life and the term of the agreement. So if you have a 30-year rental agreement, that is another option for you. But if it has to be 90 days before your NOD.
That's important. That's important. My mom
Isn't it true that they have to honor that for the tenant
post foreclosure.
No, that's exactly what, so the question is, isn't that, don't they have to honor that post foreclosure? That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
After they sell your house, in a trustee sale, they still have to honor the tenant agreement for the term of the rental agreement.
Oh, so the house could still be foreclosed, okay.
If the contract is in place, again, please look it up for yourself. If the contract is in place 90 days before NOD. If it's not, the other condition is it has to be fair market value. Okay, you can't just rent to your brother for $50 a month. That's just breaking, this is not in good faith. However, if you rent a room of a property sublet to a business partner in New York City who comes to visit once in a while, who wants to have a place to stay for $100 a month for just a room for the next 20 years, an argument can be made. Because $100 a month, $200 a month for a room is reasonable. So it has to be fair market value. In other words, they can sell the property while it's not a rental agreement on the entire house. They can't sell the house because one room is rented.
No, it can't be family though, too.
It doesn't stop the sale.
Can it?
I don't think that's in the law.
They don't still sell
Could
it.
be immediate family.
They'll still sell the house, they just become the landlord.
They have to be they will be the landlord, but you stay in the house.
I have the cash for keys that are keep on sending me letters. Cash for keys are sending me letters about this, right? So what they're doing is, since they did a post foreclosure on it, the cash for keys are asking me who is the actual occupant of the property, which I stay in the property. So they've been keep on sending me these letters and letters, basically saying who, because once they know that I'm in the property, then they only have 20 days and they can come in and do it.
Right.
Yeah, but
So
I haven't given them anything. I gave them a notice to fraud to litigate. They haven't got it. But I want to ask you a question about 120 days of the, they passed a law that basically says 120 days of the actual trustee sale date.
Actually, hold on a second. Realize something. Our friends online. Ollie, can we, is there volume?
No, there's no, it's YouTube. It's YouTube, July 10th.
So for our friends online, welcome back. This is a video from John Stewart's seminar. We're having problems.
Oh, they're
with,
just getting,
Solomon.
there's something, the
Oh, wait,
Comcast,
wait,
their online cast, busy
Oh,
watching
okay.
this while we sit here.
Okay, minutes
I don't think
will be on.
he's talking about the guy that we're working for.
And in the meantime, we'll just have general questions and
That's
answers.
what happens when you get two, three conversations.
So I decided to start helping. Well,
Questions?
Okay, I've got another question. A friend of mine, I've been helping. Him and his wife both signed the note and the deed of trust, but she doesn't appear on the title.
That should be okay.
That should be okay. Now, what we did, because she doesn't appear on the title, we got her to fill out a lien and placed it against the property. And then during the foreclosure, we endorsed that lien over to the trust company agent, and which brings in a whole other issue of the role of the trust company in this. But we endorsed that lien over to them as a bid on the property, and they accepted it. But they haven't returned it yet. And we've requested the return of this lien from the trust company, and they refused to return it to us.
I really don't know. I'm not familiar with that process, so I can't comment.
Okay, well,